come down the place for it. The canteen's going desperate. We're going to have a strike on. So, I sold more than I sold before. I'll tell you, this must have a dumb man on that there. He called me round last week, and there were 3 cartons that had been out of stock for a month. The production of twist is more involved than most other smoking tobaccos. We put it on a steamer, about 50-pound lots, drive steam through it. Then the girls can loosen the leaves without damaging the tobacco. It's then put in bunkers and liquid, which is merely the additional of water, to bring it up to a working percentage around about 34-35% moisture. After the leaf has been moistened and left on the floor, for the moisture to get right into the tobacco and make each leaf supple, then the leaf has to be stripped by the girls. That's the centre stalk taken out, which they're very adept. Then they divide the leaf into 2 portions, which gives you 2 halves of the leaf, 2 wrappers. For the thicker twists, which require the longest wrapper, these wrappers have to be padded. The girls spread them out smoothly and pad them across their knees. The reason for this will be made more obvious when we get into the spinning room. A spinning team consists generally of 3 people, the spinner herself, and 2 girls who are feeding the leaf or the wrapper and the filler to her. We produce 3 sizes of brown twist: pigtail, the thin one; bogey, the medium; and Irish thick twist. The machines are set to spin a certain size, but this is only a guide. In the main, it is the spinner that controls the size. Up to this point, there is no difference between black and brown twist. Now we'll follow the black twist. The spools are taken through into the next room, and the twist is wound off into rolls. There's a certain degree of skill in making these rolls, because each layer must contain exactly the same number of rounds of twist, so that when it is pressed, it's all getting the same pressure. Twist is undoubtedly the strongest smoking tobacco, and must be very strong when chewed. It's not a habit of mine. Undoubtedly, it must be very much on the decrease. In the mining industry, where there's no smoking, the miners either chew twist or take snuff. I would think it's almost exclusively in the mining industry now. They're now ready to follow through to the baking process. Here, drenched with olive oil, wrapped in high gloss friction glazed paper, and then in cloth, and then bound with cords. They're then moved into steam plate press. This press has a holding pressure of about 1/4 ton, and they're cooked in there for 6 hours. An electric motor drives our glorious Victorian shafting, pulleys which operate a hydraulic pump which pumps up the steam plate press. The real smell of this roasting black tobacco it's really a glorious smell. Reminds me of gingerbread. In the morning, they're transferred to a cold plate press, and they want about 3 days in that press with the pressure on at night and released during the day, so the tobacco will not set brick hard, but it's a chance to spring again and keep some life in it. When the black twist is required, it's taken out of the press, the cord is unwound off it, and if it's roll that's required, it is ready to go through and be weighed, wrapped and labelled. Basically, we only make one blend of twist, which can be either black or brown. We also produce an aromatic flavoured twist, which is exactly the same leaf blend, but has some aromatic flavours added. The chewing of twist cannot be detrimental in the same way as smoking tobacco. I cannot believe it can be very good for your stomach, but now, brown twist is an easier process because it cuts out all the pressing. The foreman winds it round his fist into what we call clues until he gets about a 20 or 30 pound clue and takes it through to the girls in the packing room, where it is dealt in the same way as the black twist, 30 pence, 15 pence pieces. As far as I know, none of our staff are addicted to chewing twist, but we certainly wouldn't mind if they want to take up the habit. We don't think we'll lose a lot of twist this way.
According to taste, various people like their tobacco in different ways. Some people like it wrapped up in little tubes of paper and smoke it. Other people like it twisted up into a rope and chew it. And yet a third type of person likes it ground up very fine so they can snip it. And that's what we're doing here, because at Kendal in the Lake District is the center of the snuff industry. And this machinery has been working continuously for 210 years. It's been designated as the oldest working commercial machinery in the country. Another snuff mill just outside Kendal is Gawith and Hoggarth. This one is water-driven. On arrival from Bond, the tobacco leaf is checked by Mr. Gawith, the managing director.
All types of tobaccos are used in the preparation of snuff, with the exception of your cigarette type tobacco, the yellow leaf. It's been out of stock for a month. As no moisture can be ground off in the process of grinding, the tobacco has to be dried before it's put into the mill. So we put it into an electrically heated drying room, dry it down to about 4% moisture. The mill is operated from the water wheel and is turned over for anything from 6 hours to a day and a half until the operator can tell, merely by the sound of the mill, whether the grinding operation is complete. There are one or two different ways of grinding snuff. The coarse ground varieties are ground in open pestle and mortars. These have to start off fairly damp for the pestle to get hold of the tobacco in the mortar. The material of leaf and a certain amount of stems are shoveled into the mortars. It takes anything up to a complete day's grinding to finish the open pestle and mortar grinding, and that is only part of the process of these snuffs. The new, more popular snuffs are all dry, ground in enclosed mills. We use ball mills. Ball mills are large steel cylinders, and the balls inside are mild steel in a variety of sizes, some 30 to 35 in total in each mill. Then the correct blend of different tobacco leaves are fed into the mill. On all snuffs, salts are added, salts which are permitted by customs and excise. In fact, ground tobacco without salts, it's like your potatoes without salts, it's anemic. They bring out the natural flavour of the tobacco. In the case of these high-dried tobaccos, the salts are added as a paste into the ball mill itself. Lid is put on the housing, and here you'll note that the correct nut has to be put onto each thread, because they're handmade, one nut won't fit any other thread but its own one. Tobacco and snuff have both been manufactured in Kendal since about 1700, and the water wheel has been in operation since the 13th century. To our knowledge, the spindle of the present water wheel has not been renewed for the past 100 years. Now back to wet snuffs. The operator take the processed snuff out of the mortars, he sieves it, and one finds that most of the stems and the little veins out of the leaf have not been properly ground. And these are transferred into the big 3-pestle pot, which we fondly call Big Ben. This has an enormous cogwheel grinding it, and the entire weight of that cogwheel is bearing down onto the pestles. This will grind anything. After about 4 hours in this pot, the stalky part, which would not grind in the 4 pestles, is ground to a very fine consistency. In the process, the pot gets quite hot. The two grindings are now mixed together and resieved. There's an enormous amount of skill here in the way the moisture and salts are added in this finishing pot. The snuff can be completely ruined at this point, and he has to judge the moisture content that he's putting on to within 1%. And I must say our men down here are very accurate. We don't often catch them out wrong with their moisture. Well, snuff has always been taken by a pretty wide section of the community. There's an awful lot of snuff taken in the mining industries, and in all industries where there's no smoking. Come to mind jute factories, any factories where they use explosives. Also industries where there's a high dust content, the leather industry, the old cotton trade, which is more or less lost in this country now, the printing industry, again you have a high dust level, and then snuff taking is widely used throughout the rural areas as well, always has been. I don't think you can pin down any one section of community as snuff takers, unless you take the mining industry as an exception. With all snuffs, the more sievings it goes through, the better quality of the snuff, the freer the snuff, the finer the snuff. We produce 9 or 10 basic snuffs in our snuff mill, different in either texture or colour or moisture. And from these 9 or 10 basic varieties, we blend at our Lowther Street factory to produce 60 or 70 finished blends. Our most popular brand contains some 16 different perfumes blended together in exact proportions to make sure the flavours are always identical. The mixing of the snuff is quite a lengthy process. It has to be mixed backwards and forwards from one side of the mixing trough to the other several times to get a perfect mix of the different basic blends of snuff. The perfume is then added in small doses at a time, well over the surface of the snuff, and well mixed together again, and more perfume added, and well mixed and carried on in this sequence as to make sure there's a perfect mix of perfume and snuff. Well, most snuffs during their milling process and their blending process are sieved at least 5 times. There is no wastage whatsoever in any part of the snuff process. In fact, we have to be very careful to see that there is no wastage, because we have paid a high duty rate on all tobaccos before they enter the factory. Lastly, we come on to the packaging. Our sales in pound tins are diminishing very quickly, as you would expect. More and more snuff is being sold in pocket tins, and so our production is switching over almost entirely onto pocket containers. These in the main are packed on semi-automatic filling machines, and the girls just present the container to the mouth of the nozzle.
With the expanding export trade, snuff is continuing to be a comfort in adversity. There's something kindly and old-fashioned about snuff, however much it arouses the passions for and against. But it is the pure product and the labels that are alluring. Well, that's the story of snuff that they make in Kendal, and this is the little shop in the High Street, Kendal, where you can buy it. Personally, I don't take snuff. I think I shall just stick to another Kendal-made product, and that's Kendal mint cake. And very good too.